Something happened right here on Ridge Road. That person survived, and tonight a mother is happy that her daughter is not a part of those numbers. However, she wants to bring awareness to make sure that one more person doesn't have to go through what she went through.
To say heart-wrenching would not be sufficient to say what it was like as a mom.
Janine Beatty got a phone call no mother wants.
Mom called, police call immediately. Kelsey's been in an accident.
Kelsey Beatty and her boyfriend Cameron had been hit on Ridge Road in Clover by a distracted driver who crossed the line.
My name is Kelsey. At the time of the accident, I was 29 years old. I was the assistant director at a daycare here in Clover. I'm also a mom of an incredible 6-year-old daughter. And the morning of the accident, I had just finished working our preschool graduation, seeing our little class off, and after I finished that, went to meet Cameron for lunch, and that's when everything changed.
Before the accident, I was a CNC programmer, was my civilian job. I had been doing that for quite a while. I was the sniper section leader for the 120th Infantry. Been in the Army for 15 years. And I'd been riding motorcycles for, since I was a kid. And like she said, you know, we just wanted to go get lunch, you know. She came over after the kids' graduation, and we decided that we were going to go to this little diner that was down the road that we had passed a million times but never gone to. And I said, you know, let's go on the bike. So she hopped on the bike. We go to the end of Cameo Trail, made a left, went to the end of that road and made a right onto Ridge Road. And, you know, less than maybe 5 miles from the house, that's when the accident happened.
Yeah. So I do not remember much from the accident. I blacked out a lot. I don't have a lot of visual memory. And when we were on the bike, I was like looking out to the side. This was only maybe the third time I'd ever been on a motorcycle. So I was very much trying to not worry about being scared on the bike and just focusing on being present and enjoying the moment. And so I remember just holding on to Cameron, riding down the road, looking out at the scenery, and I swear it was the moment that I was like, okay, just relax, everything's fine. And then it was just impact. And I remember the impact, and then I remember bits and pieces of the conversations I had with people as I was laying on the ground. Cameron, however, saw it coming and remembers all of it.
Yeah, so what I saw, what happened, is this car just came straight over into our lane, like drove over the center line and pulled right in front of us. It was like they were trying to kill us. And when it happened, it was so close that there was nothing I could do to avoid hitting the vehicle. I turned as far over to the right as I could. From the photos that I've seen, you can tell I just hit the edge of the car, but there was no avoiding it. And I remember right before the impact just thinking that on the back of my motorcycle I have a beautiful woman with a 6-year-old daughter, and her life's more important than mine because she has somebody to take care of. So I reached back with my left hand to grab her leg and try to hold on to her, and I grabbed her hands with my right hand because I knew that if I took the impact of the road from both of us, then she had a better chance of surviving. So we hit the car, we separated from the motorcycle. I was holding on to her, and then I hit the road, and then she landed on top of me, and then we just rolled and rolled and rolled, and then we ended up at the bottom of this hill, and I remember laying in the grass and you know, just trying to do an assessment, you know, a body assessment, see what worked and what didn't. But I knew I wasn't doing well. And I heard Kelsey talking to some people off to my right, and I kept trying to turn my head to look at her, and I couldn't move well enough to see her, but I kept trying. The people kept holding me still so that I couldn't look over her direction. And but the way that she was talking normal. So I knew that she was gonna survive, and you know, I just figured I did my job, you know, I kept her alive. So I just, you know, laid my head down in the grass and thought I'd checked out. The next thing I remember was seeing the inside of an ambulance, just very briefly. It was a snapshot. I remember a snapshot of being inside the helicopter, and then I woke up 2 weeks later out of my coma. It took, I think it was 19 units of blood right off to keep me alive. And from what I understand, the human body holds 10. So it was coming out faster than they can put it in and everything. But yeah, like I said, I was in a coma for about 2 weeks.
I remember laying on the side of the road, and there were, miraculously, the car behind us was 2 trauma nurses, a mother and daughter, and they both came to our sides and, you know, tried to work on us or do whatever they could to help until EMTs arrived. And I remember them asking about my daughter and telling them that she loved unicorns and wanted to be a rock star when she grew up. I remember giving them my dad's phone number and name and Cameron's mom's name. And I remember, the last thing I remember was, like he said, you kind of do a body assessment. So I'm laying there and I'm, you know, wiggling my fingers and my toes, and you know, you feel like you've just been hit by a car. And I could tell that something was going on my left leg, that I wasn't getting any feeling back from that. And I remember asking, am I gonna lose my leg? And hearing, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's pretty gnarly, probably, yeah. And I feel like in that moment I made peace with it, and I was like, I just need to make it out alive and get back to my daughter. I still need to be a mom. And I woke up a few days later. My mom was there. She had flown down from Maryland as soon as she heard about the accident. My dad had been there the whole time. And when I woke up, they told me I had what's called a hemipelvectomy, which is a really rare type of amputation to have. They perform it a lot for cancer treatments or for cancer patients, but to have it traumatically is very rare. And they told me at the hospital that I was only the second person to ever survive this type of amputation at that hospital. So I have my entire left leg, left hip, and left pelvis removed. I also had multiple spinal fractures. My arm was stitched up. And I remember not really being able to kind of tell how I was doing. I couldn't move around a lot. I didn't know really what was going on. I was also super drugged up. But I remember as soon as I woke up, I was like, asking about Cameron and making sure that he was still here. And they were like, well, yeah, he has similar injuries. Nobody told me he was in a coma. So I kept I woke up and I was like, someone needs to go tell Cameron that I love him, because I knew him and I was worried he would get in his head about, you know, this terrible thing happening, and I wanted him to know that it wasn't going to push me away. If anything, he was just stuck with me now. And so I kept saying, I was like, someone please go tell him I love him and that I'm stuck with, or that he's stuck with me. Like, just please make sure he knows that. And nobody really told me, you know, they were, yeah, we'll tell him, but I wasn't hearing any messages back. And I was like, you know, why hasn't he said anything? And it wasn't until he finally came out of the coma that they let me know how close we were to losing him. And so I'm really glad, you know, this is a terrible thing to happen to anybody, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but to be able to go through it with him at the same time, it's just, it makes a huge difference in being able to keep a positive mindset, because I know no matter what happens, I've got my best friend, and he understands, and I understand what he's going through, and we're just trying to make the most out of it.
There's not a day, a minute, or a second that goes by that it doesn't hurt, you know. Something always hurts. The reason that I was so touch and go from what they've told me was because I took the impact of both of us. And because of that, it made my chances of surviving a lot less. So for about the first 2 weeks I was in there, they really didn't know. And the last couple of days I was in the hospital, I asked one of the doctors, you know, like what their initial thought was whenever they saw her and whenever they saw me, because she had, you know, seen both of us when we came in. And she said that they looked at her and thought, we can do something about this. And they looked at me and said, that's a waste of time. So even the doctors didn't think I was going to make it. There's a quote that stuck with me for most of my life since I was a kid. It was a History Channel special about snipers, and it was just, you can't stamp out a sniper, you know, it's just built different. So I like to think that that maybe has something to do with it. My injuries are left leg amputation. Initially it was a below the knee, and then now it's obviously an above the knee. I have 10 inches of femur left, and whenever they put my shit back together, it was, you know, best they could do. So my leg's basically sideways and put back together. They had to take skin grafts off of this leg, so I'm got a lot of scarring and very sensitive scars on this side, and that to rebuild the skin on that side. Obviously, I've got amputation on the left hand, the last 2 fingers there, and half of the hand, just half of the hand is gone. And like I said, this one was because, you know, I tried to save her. And so when I look at this hand, you know, I go, wow, that's disgusting. But I also think, you know, this is, you know, this was worth it, you know, for her to still be alive and everything. So also, you know, my wrist was affected. I actually just had surgery on it the other day. Shoulders messed up, back fucked, right knee messed up, right ankle messed up, shattered pelvis, just, it all hurts, you know. And you just kind of try to find a way to not think about it. Yeah, you gotta keep your mind busy. You gotta keep your hands busy and stuff like that. And
for me, there is still a lot of physical pain, but what has impacted me the most is the phantom pain. There's just nothing quite like it. It messes with me because you think of phantom pain as being something in your head that your brain's messing with you, but it's real pain because the nerves are still there. The nerve endings are still sending signals to the brain saying that they hurt. And when I have phantom pain, it's so specific. Like I can tell if it's on my knee or under my toe or the side of my foot. Like it feels like it's my actual real leg being torn off, and it feels like I've re-experienced the pain of the accident over and over, because sometimes it'll feel like the bone's being crushed, other times it's like something's being sliced, and it's so specific and so real, but it's really hard to treat. So, I'm working with my doctors. I've got all the medication that they can try and throw at it. Actually in the process of trying to get approved for a spinal cord stimulator, which is supposed to help with the nerve pain as well, but the phantom pain has been to the point where I can't drive, I can't continue a conversation, I can't even roll my wheelchair across the house because it's knocking the wind out of me and feeling literally like my limbs are being torn off again. And it only lasts for a few seconds, so then it's back to, everything's normal, and then another second severe pain, and then back to normal. And it's so strange, but it's so real. And so that's been a big struggle of how to figure out how to deal with that.
We have a lot of doctor's appointments now. It's kind of like a full-time job, having to go to doctor's appointments 4 or 5 times a week sometimes. And whenever you go to the doctor, one of the first things they always ask you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain level? 1 being a mild headache and 10 being the worst pain you ever felt. And, we kind of have to remind the doctors, that a 10 for us is not the same as a 10 for you. A 10 for us is literally having your leg ripped off. So, yeah.
So you tend to downplay the other pain, because in comparison it doesn't seem so bad. Even if it is bad, you learn to live with a different level of pain. One of the things they kept saying in the hospital was, the difference between uncomfortable and unmanageable. You just have to get to the uncomfortable part. Unfortunately, that's, the best that you get, but you learn what you can tolerate.
We have future goals, obviously. I mean, the accident not only hurt us physically, it hurt us financially, substantially financially, because, I was working in a granite factory, making CNC programs, so I was having to move big pieces of granite. That's not happening. Also, being a sniper section leader, that was a very physical job, being in the Army, and I don't see that happening either. I'm actually kind of in limbo with the Army right now. I don't know what they're going to do with me. They can only do one of three things. So, but financially, the accident completely wrecked us. We were about to get a house. We both had over 800 credit scores when the accident happened. We were really on the right track. And now, just, I think my medical bills ended up being like 2.1 million, and I think hers was 1.8 million. So, we'll just be doing that for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. The latest bill statement I got from the hospital after insurance was over $300,000. And we did not get a big settlement. The person that hit us was actually uninsured. And there's just, there's nothing we can do about that. We've spoken to lawyers, and, fortunately we just got hit by the wrong person, I guess. So the thing that has kept us going has been the GoFundMe that our friends and family set up for us when the accident happened. I still have not gotten my disability approval back. It's still pending. It's been months now, and so I currently have no income. So the GoFundMe is really what has kept us afloat. One of the things that we found really humbling was, as soon as the accident happened, the outpouring of love of friends and family members and strangers, acquaintances, people that we met once a long time ago that were donating their time and their money and sharing our story, and they're what has kept us afloat. The GoFundMe money is what we've used to pay our out-of-pocket expenses. Our wheelchairs, insurance only covers so much, and even at home, we had to do renovations to make the bathroom wheelchair accessible, and to even be able to get in the house, to have a ramp put down. There's so many unexpected costs that you don't necessarily think of, and they add up really, really quickly. So we've been blessed to have the community of people around us that we have, and we wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Yeah, that was definitely good for our mental state, I would say, realizing how many people cared and stuff like that. Obviously, it dropped off whenever we came out of the hospital because, we sort of became old news pretty quick, but, it's we still have some people that still stuck around and everything like that, still got people coming to visit us and everything. Every time I get in a car, I have flashbacks of the accident, stuff like that. I have to take a lot of medication for nightmares and stuff like that. Apparently, whenever they put me under anesthesia or whenever I sleep and stuff like that, I wake up very violently. But we have some future goals. I think it's important to always have goals, and like I was saying before, always working with your hands, always doing something. That's sort of a military mindset thing where you're always trying to improve your fighting position. You're never satisfied with your fighting position, so you always try to strive for better. So I've been working with a prosthetist trying to get a leg going. I have to put it on pause right now until this recovers because it's my good hand. We plan on, just trying to fix up the house that we just got and everything like that. We've got some stuff in the works. She's about to, she's currently working with a prosthetist also. And, so hopefully we'll be up and walking. And then the big goal is to be able to walk down the aisle. So we're planning on getting married in September.
When we were in the hospital, it was weeks before we got to see each other, and the first time that I got in a wheelchair and was able to go down to his room to see him, everybody kind of gave us a moment, left us alone. And the very first thing that he said as soon as the doors closed was, I know, I gotta marry you now. I broke it, I bought it. And that's kind of, the humor, he's the sense of humor that he's always had, but it's that attitude that's, kept us going and helped us to make the most of it. He keeps saying we're a matching set now that we are both missing legs. And so, the goal is to walk down the aisle on the wedding day. And so far they're pretty hopeful that we'll be able to do that, which is pretty cool. When we first woke up, they were telling me that I was probably going to be in the hospital for about 8 months to a year before I would be recovered enough. And here we are 4 months later.
Yeah, we were out of the hospital in 2 months, and then, now we're up to 7 months.
Oh, sorry.
8 months that we've been since the accident happened, but we got out of the hospital in 2.
Yeah, so 8 months later, and we're living independently, driving ourselves, taking my daughter to school every day.
Sometimes we still do.
We do still have a lot of things that we need help with, but we've been, again, blessed to have our family close by. Things like taking the trash out to the end of the driveway, it's things that you don't think about that we are constantly finding we need assistance with. Going out in the world, you realize how much the world is not set up for handicapped people. How many people park in disabled wheelchair spots blows my mind. It's a big deal for me to be able to drive myself, go to the grocery store on my own, get my daughter where she needs to go, and it can be really frustrating to try to find parking at one of these places and you see someone parked in the wheelchair loading zone, and people just don't know, or they just don't care. So we're trying to share our story, raise awareness where we can, because it's our world now, and we're realizing, there's still a lot to be done, and whatever we can do to help with that. It feels like, something bigger is supposed to come out of this. It was tragic and horrible and life-changing, but we're in it together, and we feel like we're meant to do something with this, and we're just trying to get through every day together.
She talked about trying to get a note to me or try to get somebody to talk to me or whatever. Most people don't know what it's like to be in a coma, especially, you know, as long as I was. And I'll tell you this about being in a coma. You are in a nightmare the whole time. So you're just stuck in a nightmare that you can't get out of. But you can hear people talking to you, and it sounds like a distant voice or something like that. And my mom was constantly whispering in my ear, you know, you were in an accident, Kelsey's okay, it wasn't your fault, and she loves you. And she repeated that over and over and over in my ear. So, you know, while I've got this nightmare going on, I still had that, you know, I still knew that there was something outside of this nightmare, so I had to just make it through, you know. It's just like being in the military, you know, it's just one day at a time. And, you know, there's always an end goal. There's always that hot shower or that, you know, that bed at the end or whatever. Unfortunately, the end of that for me wasn't as pleasant, but, you know, there was still an end to it. I still woke up out of the coma, and I still got to be with my best friend.
Start line right here. What? Stop. Don't get start line.
Cheating already.
You keep bumping forward. All right. Ready? That's the nitrous.
Yeah, nitrous.
Go. Ask if it's got a Hemi in it.
I think I'm winning.
I'm heavier than you. It's not fair.